Hey everyone, this is Derek, and in this video we're going to look at whether or not a relation represents a function. And so this is kind of an introductory video for basically what is a function. So let's get some definitions out of the way. First off, we have relations, and that's just a set of ordered pair. A function is a rule that associates each input with exactly one output, or for each x there's only one y. That's kind of the definition you always hear. I'll come back to that in a second and actually explain what that means, but there's the definition. Likewise, the domain is the set of the input or independent variables for which the function is defined, and the range is going to be the set of the output or dependent variables for which the function is defined. Okay, so let me see if I can get that into some English. So basically, if I just have a pair, an input-output, that's a relation. A function, that's going to be a rule that associates exactly one of these inputs with an output. And a rule could just be like, it can kind of be anything. It could just be like, you have an input, so we're going to have some input, and then let's say we're going to add 3 to that input, and then that's going to give us an output. So if I put in a 4, there's my input. My rule says add 3 to that, so I go 4 plus 3, and then my output is 7. So there's my input, there's my independent variable, my rule, my function is add 3, that's the rule, and then the output is going to be the dependent variable, or the output in this case was the 7. So domain, that's going to go with our inputs. The rule, that's what matches this input to that output. And then the range, that's going to be all the outputs. So domain is like our x, our input. Range is like our y, our output. And a rule are the functions, whatever math is happening to get us there. So then the important thing with functions is, for this function rule, for each input there can only be one output. If it doesn't do that, then it's not a function. Still a relation, not a function. Okay, so first off, we have the vertical line test. So if any vertical line drawn would intersect the curve more than once, then the graph does not represent a function. Okay, so it says that, cool, so I draw a vertical line, and this vertical line hits this graph twice, right? So if I hit it more than once, not a function. So here we're saying no. But again, coming back to our definition, there's some x value right here, right? You know, say x is whatever, some value c. At whatever x this is, you see how there's 2 y values? There's a y up here, and then there's a second y down here. So for this x, when x is this value, I get y is this or that. That's what makes it not a function. Versus these next two, any place I draw a vertical line, I only hit it once. So for this x, there's only one y. For this x, there's only one y. Notice you can get the same y more than once. You know, when x is this, it could be this y. When x is the opposite, same y. That's cool. But you can't have more than one y for a given x. So this one would also pass vertical line test. There's a kind of a funky asymptote happening here in the middle. We'll see that in later chapters. But that is going to also be a function. So here we would have yes and yes. Okay, same idea, but now from a table. So here we're supposed to state the domain and range of the relations and then determine if it's a function. So remember, domain is our x, or our inputs. Range is going to be our y, or our outputs. So our inputs here look to be, and so this is going to be our domain. When we're writing a list like this, we want to do, and probably on the computer it will have those already outside the box. But if we're writing, we use a brace to denote that we're making a list. So here our domain would be -2, -1, 0, -1, oops, and 2. Okay, so I just noticed that these repeat. So that tells me this is not going to be a function, right? Because when x is -2, it could be 1. When x is -2 over here, it could be 5. So when x is -2, we're going to have 2 possible outputs. It could be 1 or 5, so this is not going to be a function. So this is going to be a no. And then our range, that's just going to be our y values, or our outputs. So range, this one will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that would be that. For B, let's see, so there's our domain. And so I'll just say domain is going to be 2002, and I'll just say comma 3, 4, 5, 6. Just shorten that up a little bit. And then our range is going to be these outputs. And generally you want to put them in order. So we'll go 1.7, 2.9 looks the next largest. So notice I have another 2.9, but that one's okay because when the year is 2003, the only answer is 2.9. When the year was 2006, the only answer is 2.9. But versus here, when x was -2, the output could be 1 or 5. So again, not a function. This one will be a function. Looks like we need 3.5 and 3.8. And so then, yes, that one would be a function.